Hey, you're welcome here again to Prep with Chigozie with me, your SAT tutor. So today I want us to learn how to deal with this question type you have showing on my screen right now. Yes, this question type. Yes, it is a standard English convention question under the verbal section of the digital SAT. Yes, and as simple as it may appear, it could also be tricky to deal with. Yes, and you're going to learn how to surmount the trick that comes with this question today by the end of this recording. Now, in the first place, let's establish some groundworks. Let me recap some foundational knowledge that you may or may not have regarding the use of the apostrophe. Yes, the apostrophe. So what is the function of the apostrophe in English language as it's tested on the SAT? In the first place, you need to learn that the apostrophe is used to indicate two things in English. The first of which is to indicate a contraction. Yes, apostrophe is used to indicate a contraction. Now, what do I mean by contraction? By contraction, I mean words that are not completely spelled. And so the apostrophe is used to indicate that a letter in that word is missing. The very typical example, which we abuse in more ways than one, is it's, it apostrophe s, which should originally be spelled as it-is. It is. So it is a contracted form of the word, the full phrase rather, because we have a subject and a verb. It is. It's even an IC if you ask me. There's a subject it and a verb is, right? But a lot of the time we confuse it with the possessive pronoun, which is completely spelled as its, as in the dog wagged its tail, right? So often you're likely going to say something like the dog wagged it apostrophe s tail, which is the wrong use of the possessive. So there is a possessive pronoun its, no letter is missing, which is why you don't have the apostrophe in that one, and then you have the contracted form of it is, which is written as it apostrophe s. So you see the role of the apostrophe there, indicating that the letter is missing. Other common contracted words in English are who is or who has, written as who apostrophe s, or they are, written as they apostrophe re. The letter a is missing in the full spelling of the word are. Also, we have they apostrophe ve. Yes, and we have a lot others: could have, would have, and the rest. You have them showing on my screen right now. These are the most common contracted words in English, right? In other words, certain words you may have come across, our apostrophe s is wrong because ours is ours. Likewise, the word yours, the full original spelling is yours, without any contraction, without any apostrophe in that word. So take note of these contractions, right? That is the first function of the apostrophe on the SAT. Now, what I always tell my students is, if you have contracted words in English on your tests under the standard English convention questions, the easiest way to overcome the trap is to read that word in full, knowing, for example, that it apostrophe s means it is. If you have it in your text or you have it in your option, read it as it is. So if I have a question like this, the dog wagged blank tail, I would read in, if I were to plug in an option from the option shown on my screen right now, I would read in it and it is. Option A, as you have it showing, is its, the possessive pronoun it, and option B, as you can see, is it apostrophe s. So if I were to plug in option B, I should read it this way: the dog wagged its tail. And you can hear how obviously wrong that is. That's the best way to deal with contracted words on your English test, especially on the SAT. Read them in full and the wrongness of the expression will spring out to you. Trust me. Yes, that is the first function. Now, the second and often the most tested function on the SAT for the apostrophe is The use of the apostrophe to indicate possession. Yes, to indicate ownership, to show that another noun is possessed by another noun. This is where we tend to have something known as possessive nouns. So the nouns that have the possessive in them, the apostrophe sign in them, are said to be possessive nouns, right? And there are 4 rules, 4 simple rules the SAT tests when it comes to your knowledge of the use of the apostrophe to indicate possession. And I will take them one by one. Now, come closer. In the first case, right, you need the apostrophe before the S when the possessor is singular. So we should have something as the boys' room. I am in the boys' room. This means that I am referring to one boy, the singular of which is B-O-Y, boy. Apostrophe S in front of that word means that one boy owns that room. So apostrophe before the S indicates singular possession, indicates that the possessor, the noun having the possessive marker, which is the apostrophe, is singular. Apostrophe before the S. That's the first rule. In the second case, you should use the apostrophe after the S on a plural noun. Yes, so let's assume that the room belongs to many boys, right? Many boys own the room. So it would be written, if I were to indicate a possessive with this, I should have this as I am in the boys' room, apostrophe after the S. So you spell the plural of the word boy, boys, then apostrophe comes after the S. And it beats me sometimes that a lot of students do not know this is normal. It is actually correct English. So if you didn't know it now. And if you're praying for the SAT, trust me, you need this a lot. You need to be sure about this. When the possessive is plural, right, apostrophe comes after the S. That is the second rule, right? Yes. Let's move on to the third rule. How do you use the possessive marker to indicate joint possession? Now, what do I mean by joint possession? By joint possession, I mean 2 nouns, 2 persons, 2 concepts have one thing, 1 person, 1 concept. Yes, 2 nouns. Let's use a very common instance of 2 brothers probably sharing a car. So it will be written as this: I took a ride in John and Alexander's car. What does this mean? It means that the car jointly belongs to John and Alexander. John and Alexander both own that one car. So the possessive marker stays with the name occurring closest, or closer rather, to the possessed item or to the possessed thing. So John and Alexander's car, right, indicating that they both collectively own that one car. Yes. And on a final note, yes, the final rule, using the possessive to indicate separate possession. What does separate possession mean? It means that both individuals, 2 different concepts, 2 different nouns, own the same kind of item. So let's assume that John has his car, where Alexander also has his car. So I should have this as John's and Alexander's cars. And often the SAT can be very generous by giving you the noun, the possessed item or the possessed thing in the plural form. That is to let you indicate that, oh, for this item to be in the plural form, it could possibly mean that that item is owned separately. So John's and Alexander's car, the possessive stays with both nouns, both possessors. Yes, that is the 4th rule on how to use the apostrophe to indicate possession, which is often the most tested. Not the 4th, by the way. All 4 rules are often tested on the SAT. Now, there are a few exceptions. It's English, right? And there are always exceptions in grammatic usages and, of course, the use of punctuation at all. Yes. Now, the first exception you should master is how to use the possessive in front of a noun whose spelling naturally ends with an S. A noun whose spelling naturally ends with an S. Yes, I went to James's house. James is singular, one name, right? That naturally ends with an S. So you were taught earlier that when you want to indicate the possession on a singular noun, what do? Apostrophe before the S. Yes, you do the same when the name naturally ends with an S. Yes, it means that I went to James's car. I went to James's house, rather. So James, spelled in full, apostrophe, another S. Yes, that is one way to use the possessive to indicate possession on a noun whose spelling naturally ends with an S. Pythagoras' theorem. Jesus' name. I know traditionally you've been taught to pray in Jesus' name, but it is more grammatically correct to have in Jesus' name, apostrophe and another S. It is also correct to not have another S when the name naturally ends with an S. Yes, so we can also have James's car spelled as James and just the apostrophe. That also works. I think this is more modern. The previous example given to you is a little archaic but still correct. So if you find it on your test, it is correctly used. That is one exception, right? Yes. Another exception you may need to know is how to use the possessive with collective nouns. Men, women, children. Yes. Oh, I was at the children's playground. I was at the children's playground. They are treated as singular, so that you have children, apostrophe S. I visited the men's locker room. Men is spelled in full, apostrophe S. Right? Yes. I visited the women's room. Women, apostrophe S. Yes. And whenever you have the plural, for example, ladies. Yes. I used the ladies' room. Ladies is spelled in full, and of course it is plural already, right? You meant to use an apostrophe in front of the word ladies, and that works. So yes, this is more or less the foundational things you have to know regarding the possessive. Right? Now, let's walk through some questions where you would get to learn a few tricks on how to even deal with this question type without even having to read the entire text. Sometimes you could even deal with it without even reading the information before the blank. Yes. Yes. And I'll guide you through it. Come with me right now.